Hello everybody and welcome back. This is Mystic Games. We're going to be talking Northgard borders in tiles today. So this is kind of a very interesting topic on this game. So there's a lot of little nuance to Northgard that makes it a very interesting game, and it makes it unique and very fun. And there's ways that you can kind of use the map to your advantage, right? So you always start with your town hall, and you usually have you usually have 3 to 4 tiles that are adjacent that you can take. One's usually defended. If you have 2, you'll have 2 that are defended. So like this person, they have 2 foxes on their tile here. This one's undefended, and this tile's undefended. This person would start with 4 tiles adjacent that they could choose from. This one's undefended. It has rock and wheat, which is fertile fields. I like that. This is actually a really solid tile. Then you have forests and stone, which is undefended, which is a really good start too, because you get early extra lumber. This tile has 2 sheep on it, but it has 2 wolves defending it, but it has ruins as well. So this is also not a bad tile. And then you have 1 fox, their iron, and fields. So honestly, the only way this could really be better, I would say, is if one of these 2 tiles had the iron and then this had the stone on it instead, because then you could get your war chief first or gather stone depending on your play style. Normally I would recommend that iron's usually a little bit more important in the beginning, simply to get your war chief up, and then stone to start upgrading, but it can vary on map. And also, just what you have access to is always random, so sometimes the wolves will be on, the iron, like in this case you have the fox on the iron, so you're going to start with stone. And you probably could easily clear this with 1 axe thrower and take the iron, which would probably be ideal after this, but you might already be on stone at that point, and I would recommend that you mine it out. That you mine the stone out first before you go over and get the iron in that case. Either way, you get, 3 to 4 tiles to start. Now, the big thing I want to talk about is kind of scouting and borders, because I think borders is really important. Like right here, you have all these rocks. So this tile is connected to your town hall, and it's connected to the forest here. This forest tile up here. You guys can see where I'm clicking and see the borders. So this one has those 2. Now it's connected to this tile, but not directly connected because there's a border. That means you can't take this tile and then invade this tile with the stone up here because there's a border in the way. And you might be like, well, that's obvious. It is, but there are maps where it's very hard to see. And I think it's very important to know where your borders and your borders aren't. Like right here, you would think, okay, well, there's a border here, but these 2 tiles are connected. It's just a forest here. It's hard to see, but there's a border here, but it doesn't go this way. So if as a new player or someone that's not paying attention to the map, it's something very easy you can miss. I think it's very important for new players to be aware of their borders. Scouting is relatively important, especially in the very beginning, to get out a couple tiles ahead of you, just so you can see what you're working with and where is the best place to expand. Normally I double scout my first territories, whether it be 3 or 4, to get them out as fast as possible, and then I will normally pull a scout away if I can to put them back to work, or I will put a scout on, like if I have access to ruins and I'm taking that, it doesn't have any guards like any foxes or wolves, I'll take it, I'll throw 1 on there and then have the other one scout until that's done, and then I'll throw them back on mining or whatever I want him doing, gathering food, gathering lumber, whatever. But yeah, you need to manage your territories and see where you're going. Like in this map, right? He doesn't hit, I would argue that this is a relatively worse start for this person in random generation than this guy has. I would argue this start's probably better. He even has a lore stone access. He has a special thing here. The amount of enemies is actually, I would say, arguably easier to deal with over here, and you just get more rewards. And even the map generation for defense purposes is actually pretty good for this person. Like, to funnel in, you would have to go through here from this tile to this tile. There's trees there. Connect the forest to this stone. Should probably put my cursor on it eventually for this. And then you can connect to the fertile field. So there's two paths that you can take once you get to this tile. But if you take this tile that has the Draugr tomb and the ruin stone, you can actually build a tower here, and you pretty much cut off the enemy from being able to get around, because your border's here, so they can't go anywhere here. You just have rocks, so they're going to get stuck. They can go into the giant, but that doesn't do anything for them because they're still trapped by a border here. So like, this is a very good defensive zone. Like, once you take this and this, right, which are your first two you can take, and normally I would argue you should probably take these two because they're relatively undefended, and the rewards are worth taking these two zones. But then I would probably say take this and build a tower. Over here, on the other hand, right, you take these two zones that are right next to your base. You have dwarves blocking you, and then you have, yep, this guy wins. So the ox start on this random generation is extremely strong. Like, defensively, this person should not lose this match. He should have a lot more control over the flow of the map, in defense at least. I'm not saying attacking, because he obviously has to go through somewhat of the same thing, but if you take this as a defensive measure, you then can go here, 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 and here to attack, here, here, right? Here, here, here. This person has not very good defense. If you come in from this direction, which is the way you'd probably come once you realize there's dwarves here and you're kind of blocked, you're going to end up going this way. This person has a much greater advantage, I would say, than orange here does. And again, that's just simply map generation. This game is RNG on a level. Obviously, if this player is more skilled, they can still beat this player. I'm just saying there's very strong defense just simply for this player to build a tower here, move his militia if he's going that tree, and this tile will be relatively well defended. It will take more to crack than he may want to spend resources on. So if you're going, a certain victory, fame would be very hard for this player simply because he's not going to probably have the zones. Let me count this out. 1, 5. Yeah, he wouldn't have the zones, so he would have to expand outwards. But even so, I mean, I think he just has to take these two zones plus all the zones up to the dwarves, and he would be able to do a fame victory. And then you just have two tiles to defend, because you're still defended here by this barrier. You can only be hit by 3 directions. It's pretty solid. I mean, it's a pretty solid start. Plus, he's going to have to deal with the likely in this game, orange will have to deal with the kobolds before this person would have to deal with the kobolds. So he's going to have to waste resources on this and time, whereas you may not have to. And then you have the dwarves guarding you here, so he either has to ally with the dwarves or get, them to a peaceful relations before he can invade you here. And then also you just take this tile, you build a stone here, you get good relations with the dwarves, and you build you build your tower here, and you have 2 solid defense positions, and you can just essentially focus on colonizing the rest of your tiles, and you'll probably win the match. You have both fields, which are both very strong starting zones, like starting food. You have sheep access. Yeah, I think it's a pretty solid start. The geyser is actually up for grabs too, which is crazy because realistically neither of you is really close to the geyser. He actually has walls to go through to get there too. Yeah, arguably I think this guy has a harder start by map. And then he's blocked here from giants. You'd have to make peace with them before he goes in. Yeah. And then to even get to like the eagle, we'll say he has to, either go through there, which he's not going to probably do, kill that, kill this, then kill that to get there. So yeah, this is a very interesting map, but as you guys can probably follow my analysis here, as I'm going all over the place, but there's by map generation, I'd argue this guy is in a much worse position. His defenses, right, like, he is open very wide for a lot of different attacks from different tiles here. Like, I think there's essentially two, because this tile is connected. I think the border ends. So this tile is 2 tiles here, but you still have to build a tower here, right? So you'd have to have two towers to the, you know, rounds 1 to defend your base, because he can come this way. He can also actually come this way as well. So he has 4 tiles that he could use to strike you from eventually, whereas you're going to have, at the best for you, 2 tiles, but you have a river, so that even makes it harder for you to get around. So defensively, this person's extremely well positioned. And then the dwarves just make it even better for him. I would argue that taking this territory and getting a stone up is more valuable, especially because he starts with extra stone as well, right? Because he has 2 zones that he just gets stone from. So he's going to have the stone. You build here, you put this thing down, you build the tower. They have to befriend the dwarves to even get to you, and if they don't, they have to kill the dwarves and then try to get through here, which you're going to be able to move to defend, knowing the dwarves are getting killed. So yeah. Important. All this stuff's really important to understand in this game. I think people undervalue the map generation. Again, I don't play a ton of PvP, but I play a lot of Conquest, and there are times where I load into a map and I look at what's around me, like this, you know, like my surrounding tiles. I'm like, it's okay, and then I go like a couple tiles out, and I'm like, I am gonna die. Like it's going to be very difficult for me to be victorious against the computer, just simply because of, like, my resources. Like, essentially I have oranges start. Like, I'm like, I am going to be at a major disadvantage to this computer simply because of what I have access to. So I think that's very important to understand. Like, knowing what tiles are around you is very important, and then knowing where the borders end is also. There's one little thing I want to do before I end this video. I don't have it here, unfortunately. I'm trying to see if we have a river, essentially, on the edge here anywhere. We do not. So sometimes you'll get, oh, here's one, right here. So you have water here, a lake, essentially, and then here you have a border, but there is a walkway of stone in this water, right here, that they can cross through. So just because you have water doesn't mean they can't get through. A lot of the times with the water border, there is a stone path. The only positive to this path is that they do have to take the path to get across. Like, they can't run through the water. So you know if they're coming from one of these 2 tiles to get to the other, they have to take that bridge to get across. So you can, you know, defensively set up for that, where they're going to run into you. And it will give you a slight advantage. Because normally you have the advantage when you're defending, because you will usually strike before they strike, even if they click on you, because they have to position once they get across, whereas you do not. You can position ahead of time, if you're there before they are, that is. Defense generally is king. You generally will win the fight if you are ready for them and you're in a defensive position, even if you're at a slight disadvantage, unless the player is obviously extremely good and skilled. I mean, there is a level of skill, but generally being in a defensive position, you will win. So that's something else I wanted to mention, because a lot of people don't realize that there are little rivers with stone paths in them that can be crossed. And then the one final thing, because I actually just thought about this as I'm talking here, your coastline, right? This is a beach, so you do have water access. This tile with the forest here does not have water access, because the beach won't count here like it does here. You can tell by the outlines, like, including the beach in it, whereas this one's like, yeah, you have a beach, like in that little corner of it right here, this little part, but it's not connected to your outline. So this is not a beach tile. That's relatively important for the Kraken clan. Like, he has no beach tiles, really. He has, you know, this is uplifted as well. All these are uplifted tiles. Let's see what you got over here. You have a beach tile here, and that's it. So if he was facing Raven can only really hit him here, and then eventually his town hall. So even backdooring him would be difficult with Raven. So yeah. Anyways, I think that's important to the game. I wanted to do a little tutorial video on borders. I hope you guys enjoy. I know it's not the most exciting topic, but I think it is a very important topic, and not one that's well spoken about on this game. I hope this helps some new players, and I hope you all have a fantastic day. I'll see you in the next video. Later, guys.